Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews. What I want to show, and I'm going to start reconstructing, this is, about the Assyrian captivity and how our enemies done painted a whole another picture of the Assyrian captivity as if the Assyrians were complete, total enemies of the Israelite people, man, and that's false. That's false. And it was a lot going on in history back in them times. Back in the BC days, man, there was a lot going on. I'm talking about there was a lot going on. And mostly what was going on was that they was robbing, man. I'm talking about they was robbing. Everybody was robbing. It seemed like all the nations, you know what I'm saying, they got together from robbing. And the majority of the problems, what I see gonna come about when we exodus Egypt. And then we start to take over them Kenite tribes. Them Kenites was connected to a whole lot of people. And they had mixed it with a whole lot of people. And I'm talking about the Amorites specifically. It's very important to get an understanding of the Amorites. Because the Amorites are basically the people that's controlling us today. And I know that may sound crazy because you see white, non-pigmented white folks controlling us of European descent. But guess what's controlling them? And who controlling them? The Jews are controlling them. The people who the Caucasian people look up to as the chosen people. They are controlling the European peoples and nations, because it's kind of like they in cahoots together. But, I want to show that the Amorites is kind of like, it's almost like what the Creator told Prophet Abraham, that the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And that's in Genesis. And sure enough, if that's the truth, and it let you know that it's a Creator, because, a whole lot of the scriptures that you see in the history, in the scriptures, even though our heritage fell into the hand of the Babylonian scribes, you can still see the history of the past in the scriptures that's here in the future, right now, today. You can see this. But our Creator, Almighty Yah, has said this. And this is a trip, because sure enough, if you look at what's going on, you know what I'm saying, it kind of go back to the Amorite folks. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. He said this after he told Prophet Abraham that his descendants would be a stranger in a strange land, serving some folks for 400 years, and afterwards they shall come out with great substance. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, I got video showing that us Hebrew Israelites wasn't in Egypt in bondage for 400 years, and how we wasn't in bondage in Egypt for 400 years, because for the first 100 years, when our father Joseph brung his father Jacob, Israel, and the rest of his brothers and family to Egypt, and that how we wasn't in bondage in Egypt, until a new king come on about 200 years later. And then we went into bondage, when the king from Upper Egypt come on. We was involved with the Egyptians from Lower Egypt, the Mishwish tribes and so forth. We was associated with them, and how we wasn't in bondage in Egypt when Pharaoh then gave us land and sent chariots, and then our father Jacob blessed Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh did some real slick, dirty, low down stuff to us. Nevertheless, when he gave Joseph Asenath, and then, you know, the kids whose sons, you know, Joseph's sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, uh, grandfather was the priest of On. That's something real serious. And I explained that history, how, you know, we got messed up with that Jeroboam Egyptian religion and how it stayed on us the whole time. Matter of fact, I'm doing some reading on it now that I'm going to try to include in this video. But anyway, you know, the Creator said, and also that nation whom they serve will not judge, and afterwards shall they come out. And we pray that this is the bondage, the 400 years that the Creator spoke about, because we've been here 400 years, and it looked like this country, America, is in judgment. All right. But in the fourth generation, they should come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. All right. Our ancestors didn't come back to the promised land in the fourth generation. Benjamin and them did it. You know what I'm saying? And the iniquity of the Amorites, it ain't full. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's full now, but from back then to now, you know, back then it wasn't full, but now it's full. And it's a trip how the Tanakh be in agreement and the prophecies be in agreement with the history that's now, even though our enemies got control of history and they try to make you think that history is something else, or that what you're going through is not connected to the history in the past, you know. But they can't, you know, they slickness is coming to an end. All right. But you see the Assyrian Empire. Now, this is what I'm showing, that the Assyrian Empire was robbers. You know, everybody was robbing. Everybody was robbing. And that's what it was about, you know, the robbing. You know, the clan and group of people get together and they go take somebody else's stuff. And that was going on. And I'm showing that the Amorites took Assyria over. You see, it was a Hamite pigmented, dark pigmented stock that held Egypt. You know, that's gonna be them Cushites. You know, the Cushites who founded. You know, Nimrod, Ham and Cush. Nimrod founded Babylon and the Mesopotamia area, brung civilization to it. But you know how they lost it is because the peoples up in the Caucasus Mountain and so forth that didn't have pigmentation came down, and then they would come down and destroy the Sumerian kingdom, you know, the blackhead kingdoms, and then they would destroy the Akkadian civilization, and then the Assyrian civilization come off the Akkadian civilization. And then, you know, they got a list of Assyrian kings that, you know, they don't even have dates for, and those are gonna be the pigmented African stock, you know, of Hamites, Cushites that sojourn in the Mesopotamia area. You know, this was all considered the Garden of Eden. So you're going to see Ham, Shem, and Japhet descendants hanging around here. You see what I'm saying? And Shem descendants really wouldn't get on and really become a strong nation, you know what I'm saying, until Jacob, you know, come about, you know. But before then, we just had fathers that just had family and servants, and they would hold it down, like the prophet Abraham hold it down when those Mesopotamian peoples came to rob those people in Sodom and Gomorrah. And then they had kidnapped some of Prophet Abraham's relatives, his nephew, Lot and them. You know, he went and rescued them, and you know, and then had rescued the few of them Amorites. You know, that kind of like legitimized, you know, his stay there, because he had helped the natives there when he came into the area from Chaldea that the Assyrians held control of. You see what I'm saying? The Assyrians held control of Assyria, Chaldea, and so forth. And Assyria had control of Chaldea. You're where our father Abraham had come from, and around about that time, around about 1800 BC, 1900 BC, around about that time is when them Amorites had mixed thoroughly with them peoples up there. They was already non-pigmented people, but they had really started kicking it and messing with them. And I'm kind of seeing that it was the Amorites, that the Canaanite people that didn't have pigmentation, that kind of was like bringing them non-pigmented peoples out the caves, because under Turkey, I got videos showing that how they got nothing but caves, caves and underground cities, and how all the non-pigmented peoples lived underground and so forth. Well, around about the 1800 BC is when the Amorites had taken over Assyria, and it's kind of like when them people started to come down and start hanging in Ham's descendants, the Cushites, descendants empire. They was getting education from there, and we know that the Hamites descendants had technology out of this world, being that Egypt is a descendant of the Hamites, and the Assyrians and the Babylonians too. So them Hamites had sophistication. Well, them people at the caves started come hanging out around about the 1800 BC, when the Amorites, the non-pigmented, folks took, the land over from the pigmented folks and stuff. And then, I could show, in history where the pigmented folks get control of Babylon back and chase the Amorite element out that would go settle in Babylon, in Mori and so forth, and how the battle would go from there. That's would be the main battle in the so-called, Middle East, but in the Mesopotamian area, because there ain't no Middle East, them folks crazy with that stuff, but our father Abraham was in Chaldea when the pigmented Assyrians held control, and then they lost it to them non-pigmented folks. And then that's when our father Abraham got on down towards the Egypt way. But look at this, Isaiah 23 13. Behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this people was not till the Assyrians founded it for them that dwelled in the wilderness. That's the caves and stuff. They set up the towers thereof, they raised up the palace thereof, and they brought it to ruin. You know what I'm saying? Them non-pigmented folks brung it to ruin. Okay, Hebrews, the history that we know today and that we believe in is false, because, back in the days, they were robbing. And then I kind of see that robbing element in the area mostly took off when them folks was coming up out the caves. That's when it just reached its climax and stuff. But kind of before then, everybody was still robbing everybody. And then how the Assyrians would come try to rob us. But before then, the Syrians, we had trouble with peoples, men around about these parts, Syria and so forth. And, they would come try to rob us. We had plenty gold, and it's like I show in other videos how the tribe of Ephraim did trade with Assyria and was kind of like the middleman and stuff for the Egyptian empire. And then how, man, we had plenty gold. If Egypt got gold, we gonna have gold too. You see what I'm saying? And especially us being the middleman. You see what I'm saying? Because when we come up out of Egypt, we took over what them Canaanites had, them Amorites, and they had plenty gold. The scriptures is full of them stories of how we took them folks' stuff. You see what I'm saying? Well, that's what it was, meant about, But like I said, we had, in a connection with the Assyrians and so forth. Look, Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. You see, the book of Hosea wrote in 753 BC tell you about, the Egyptians and how the tribe of Ephraim, associated with the Egyptians. It's full of that history and how we kept going, back and forth, from Egypt to Assyria, and how we would deal with them folks, and them folks would be the same people that would, destroy us in the end. You see what I'm saying? But the Assyrians was robbers, and Syria was robbers. This was like a kingdom that existed before Assyria got on its feet. You see what I'm saying? And they're called the Syrians. We had a off and on relationship, what I'm saying, with them. And this would be their territory right there. You see, and they was close to the northern kingdom. They was real close to the northern kingdom, Syria was. But you see, this is our territory, and that'd be, this is where Assyria was, and then the Syrians would be, Damascus would be over there, and that's where them Hittites and them type of folks was, what I'm saying, up there. But everybody was robbed. Everybody was robbed. Alright, you see Syria right there. Alright. Razin and them folks would rob us. Ben-Hadad, Hazael, you know what I'm saying, his servant, and then Ben-Hadad, his son. All them were robbers and caused us trouble and so forth, and we had, dealings with them. And then eventually Judah would hire the Assyrians, and then the Assyrians would come robbers, and man, it was a back and forth thing. And like I say, that robbing stuff didn't really get started until them folks started coming up out the Caucasus Mountain, and them paws started, to come into Syria and tried to get an education. But this show you that they was robbers. Man, if you go to I think it's First Kings, and then this is dealing with Ahab. And Ben-Hadad the king of Syria gathered all his host together, and there were 32 kings with him, horses and chariots. And he went up and besieged Samaria and warred against it. And he sent messengers to Ahab, king of Israel, into the city, and said unto him, This said Ben-Hadad, Thy silver and thy gold is mine, thy wives also, and thy children, even thy goodliest, are mine. And the king of Israel answered and said, O Elohim, O king, according to thy saying, O my lord, king, according to thy saying, I am then and all that I have. He submitted. Dude and come up, with an army and stuff, and they strapped like Japs, ready to get it on. And the king of Israel bowed down, weak, because we was on that Jeroboam religion. But Ahab gonna be on the Amorite Canaanite religion. You see what I'm saying? And then, probably about this time, those Assyrians were against, them folks. You know what I'm saying? Them Syrians were, against them Amorites, because usually when you worship the same God that your enemies worship, they don't, come bother you and stuff. Alright, and the king of Israel answered and said, My lord, O king, according to thy saying, I am then and all that I have. And the messengers came and said, This speaketh Ben-Hadad, saying, Although I have sent unto thee, saying, Thou shalt deliver me thy silver and thy gold and thy wives and thy children, yet I will send my servants unto thee tomorrow about this time, and they shall search thee in house and the houses of thy servants, and it shall be that whatsoever it please whatsoever is pleasant in their eyes, they shall put it in their hand and take it away. You know what I'm saying? Now that's awful. Now that's the kind of robbing they was doing back in the days, and everybody was doing it. And then we would get our enemies and take their mouth down through there, and when we was on the law and following the covenant. But if we ain't on the covenant, our enemies robbing us and taking us down through there. You see what I'm saying? And then that happened, you know what I'm saying, in the past, in the scriptures. It's full of it. You know what I'm saying? That's like I could show you how we would hire some of the other folks to help us fight, against the tribes of Israel who was robbed. We was robbing each other and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And that went on, throughout history and stuff. And man, it wasn't nothing but a whole bunch of robbing going on. See, after we robbed each other, and then we would go hire the other tribes to go rob Israel that robbed Judah. You know what I'm saying? And a whole bunch of that was going on. All right. Let's see this. You see, look. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. You see what I'm saying? He done took the silver and the gold and then gave it to the king of Assyria, and then he'll come down and rob the tribes of Israel in the Syrians. You see what I'm saying? And then, that would go on back and forth. Our history is full of that, and we've been kind of devious towards each other that come from our past, and we think that we just start being evil towards each other now since our captivity. No, we've been robbing and killing each other for a long time too. The robbing is part of our makeup. You know what I'm saying? And that's like you can see how we are today in captivity. Oh man, we robbing and can't stop robbing. You see what I'm saying? And mostly the folks that be on that robbing tilt, you know what I'm saying, be the ones that don't know the Creator. Because if you know the Creator and know the truth, you know that the Creator provide everything for you and stuff. You ain't got to get down like that. And then that history can be shown in the scriptures. But you see how the Assyrians were robbers, and then how we would hire the Assyrians, you know what I'm saying, to come help us, and then when we should have been relying on the Creator. You see what I'm saying? And this is some of the Assyrians' history right here. Some of their kings, and they'll tell you when the Amorites come in. I can't name all of them, but you see his stars, the king, the Akkadian language, and they, ascribe the Assyrian the Assyrian Empire is coming off the Akkadian Empire. The Akkadians were their predecessors. Alright, but you see the Syrian Empire, the early Assyrian Empire, this is the king list, 2450 to 25 BC. And then, this, them gonna be the ones that's of the Hamite stock. You see what I'm saying? And they would come from out of Africa and populate the Assyrian Empire. See, they don't get no dates and stuff, you know what I'm saying, on them, because they gonna know that they some straight up, pigmented folks and stuff. And that, then, some Amorites would come take the land from them. You know what I'm saying? Look, the meaning of the king, this where ancestors unclear. This section is also, they find the Assyrians records and stuff in Assyria, and how those folks were real sharp with keeping up with their history in detail. And that's how some of the Israelite history. See, and this is what happened to the folks that took over our heritage after we abandoned it to them is that the Assyrians had images of us already. You see what I'm saying? And how our enemies stumble upon those images of us, and it was kind of like too late to destroy them. But what they don't do is that they don't highlight it. That's like you got the Jehu relief, and then you got the black obelisk that come from Assyria, that they got the captivity with the Assyrians coming in, robbing us, and taking, some tribes and stuff. But this is the Assyrians king list, and they had a lot of kings. All the first kings before they come with the dates gonna have, African Hamite ancestry and stuff, and that how that it didn't change men until the Amorites coming there. Let's see, around about 1380 BC. That's when you get the Amorite, period and stuff, where them non-pigmented folks then got in there and then took Assyria over. The old Assyrian king, this based on the relationship divided to four groups. Let me see. Followed by the dynasty of Shemish Adad, also known as the Amorite dynasty. You see that Amish Adad dude gonna be the first, Amorite folks, the non-pigmented peoples, done took Assyria over. And that's why if you look at the Assyrian images, you'll see that they kind of look like some mixed people, some mulattoes and so forth, and that how that they was looking like that. And then that's gonna come after them Amorites and then got in there, and then they done brung them non-pigmented peoples in there, and then that's gonna be about the time when them Assyrians, later on after them folks then got deep, and then them Assyrians realized that they was finna lose they civilization and land and empire forever to them non-pigmented peoples, is when them Assyrians start to come and get us and get our tribes and try to get us to help them. You see what I'm saying? And then this is that Shemish Adad one. You know what I'm saying? Them Amorites. Alright, and then as you look down on the Assyrian king list, you know what I'm saying? That's like, the Assyrians, they didn't start to get vicious and start really getting down with the robbing and stuff, you know what I'm saying, until around about the 1800s. That this when Prophet Abraham then left about this time. You see what I'm saying? When these kings was on in Assyria, Prophet Abraham then already left them parts. It wasn't nothing but trouble, you know what I'm saying, in them parts around, this time. Alright, but you see them Assyrians king this, and then this is when it started to get interesting, around about King David time, you know what I'm saying, really around about Solomon time, when Solomon passed away after bringing that Egyptian in and all them other enemies into our kingdom and stuff. And then that's when them folks start to move around and start to stretch out and come into other lands and stuff. And then they say Talicapazer the one is one of the greatest conquer. Now this is what the Assyrians used to do to to make up their army and stuff. They used to go kidnap other peoples and then force them to fight in their armies. They like the first people to do that, where they'll go snatch a whole town, take all the men, and then make them fight in their army. And then if they didn't fight, they finna die. You see what I'm saying? So they ain't have no choice, and usually they reward them folks, for fighting in their army and stuff. And then that's what happened to the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, and then off of that would spring the 10 lost tribes of Israel myth. You see what I'm saying? After that would spring the 10 lost tribes of Israel myth, and Talicapazer the first, the second, I think it was the third one that we had, troubles with, and that's like Usher Dan. Usher Dan, it was a Usher Dan that was on in Nineveh when the prophet Jonah came there and told them to stop kicking it. Yeah, Usher Dan the third right there. You see Usher Dan the third, he gonna be on when Prophet Jonah come to Nineveh and tell them to stop kicking it with them beasts and to straighten up, because it's like they was robbing and stealing, and they had a beast element men in their nation and stuff. And then the prophet Jonah went up there and told him to stop, kicking it with them, the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria put on sackcloth, and he told the beasts in the nation. And we know that the animals don't have no hands, and that you cannot fall in their hands for evil to be done unto you. Well, that was said about the beasts in Assyria, that evil is that stop all the evil in their hand and stuff. Well, that's gonna be them folks that come up out the Caucasus Mountain that started to kick it in Assyria. See, we have to understand that Assyria is right there where them folks at. And then if you look at the Assyrian history, they always stayed in constant battle with them folks, especially Urtal and the Perigans and the Scythians, see all them non-pigmented folks. And then they would stay in battle with them folks. They would stay in battle with them folks. It's like right here, this is the Caucasus Mountain. This is where Assyria was, right there. And then, they would fight against them folks that was coming from these parts. Back in the days, we know that's where all the ice and the land of the freeze is at, and where it's nothing but cold folks, and then ain't no pigmented folks gonna be hanging out up there where it's real cold at, and how they mostly gonna stay down here, what I'm saying, on the equator and stuff. And well, the Assyrians, man, they started letting them folks come in there because, like I said, them Amorites had took it over, and then I guess that would loosen the policy of the Assyrians being tight on who could come in their nation, like how America is trying to take every people on the face of this earth into it, is because them Amorite Jews, the Sephardims, control America. And then look here, this is the Amorite folks that control America. Amorite, Sephardim equals Sephardi, Sepharic, and Sephardim. They're Canaanites. The word Jew come from Jebusite. The Amorites, and those are the people that the Creator told us that the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. You see what I'm saying? But this is what the peoples would look like that the Assyrians would be fighting. They would eventually chase us into Africa. In the book of Habakkuk, the prophet was telling us Israelites that them folks was coming. Them folks would eventually destroy Assyria. They would destroy Assyria. But before Assyria was destroyed, they had hooked up with these folks called the Mishwish. The Mishwish tribes of Lower Libya. You know what I'm saying? Assyria whole empire their strength would consist of the Libyans, the Ethiopians, and mostly the folks from Africa and stuff would make up the Assyrian armies. And even the Nubians, they would come kidnap them. But it was some people that the Assyrians was really related to and hooked up with, that they love, and that's gonna be the people from Lower Libya, the Mishwish tribes. And this is the thing with the Mishwish tribes and the people in Libya and in the Sahara. They try to give them a Berber heritage, and the Berber heritage can be traced to our enemies, the sea people, the Amorites, who had mixed up, with some of the Africans and lived in North Africa. They ain't created nothing. They can't create nothing, and they ain't been nothing but just roaming around Africa, living off the other folks and their technology. But because our enemies who are kin to them done come into power, when we Hebrews abandon our heritage, they done ascribed everything to them. That's like if you look at everybody that's connected to our enemy, they done broke them off a nice piece of history and stuff. Well, them Libyans, the Mishwish tribes, that's gonna be the third, the 20th to the 23rd dynasty of Egypt, Lower Egypt. They control Lower Egypt and Up Egypt. Them will be the people that we will be mixed with. Them will be the people that the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh was kin through Joseph. You see, through Joseph marrying the Mishwish woman Asenath from the Potipari daughter. You know, them the people that control Lower Egypt, and how, you know, two of our tribes would even have some kindred to them. You see what I'm saying? And then that would give them some kindred to the Libyans, no, to the Assyrians, the tribe of Ephraim. And that's why it was kind of easy for them to do trade with the Assyrians, is because, you know, they was kin to the Egyptians. You see what I'm saying? Who was kin to them Hamites, you know what I'm saying, in Assyria and so forth. You know, but look, if you look here, I'm going to show you how Joseph was given an Egyptian woman, a Hamite woman, and these folks from Lower Egypt gonna be the Mishwish tribes. You know, the people from Lower Egypt gonna be the Mishwish tribes. All right. And Pharaoh called Joseph, named Zephaniah, Peniah, and gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potipari, priest of On. And Joseph went out all over Egypt. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipari, priest of On, bore unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yah had said he had made me forget all my toil in my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Yah had caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And then if you read history, Tanakh history, you'll see that our father Jacob, Israel, put Joseph sons in charge of, like, the greater percentage, that they will have the greater share of the inheritance and so forth, and how he kind of like gave everything to them, to the tribe of Joseph. Well, the Assyrians were kin to the Mishwish folks. Now these folks will be our doom because they kept us on a religion, as can be seen, throughout Second Kings, with the King's history. I've been reading a lot of the King's history. We was either on the Amorite, Canaanite religion that went from Egypt to Mesopotamia, or we was on the Egyptian religion that Jeroboam brung out of Egypt when Solomon died. Solomon chased him to Egypt. He will be chased to his family members, because the tribe of Ephraim were, some Egyptians. As I showed that, their mama was an Egyptian. And in the Egyptian world, the Hamite world, your maternity heritage is equal to the father heritage. You see? Okay, but look here. This will be what some of them folks will look like. You know what I'm saying? This will be what some of them will look like. And we know that them ain't no Caucasian looking folks, even though they want so bad to steal the history of Egypt, and they'll try to throw up those Caucasian pictures of the Egyptians, of some Egyptians, but it only go back to the Ptolemies, to when the Greeks took over. But this is like 500-600 years before the Greeks even got in there, and that Egypt was ruled by the people from the Sahara, the cattle worshippers and so forth. But this is what they'll look like. They'll try to get a history to the barbers and so forth. The barbers, even though they got pigmentation, they will still be mixed up with the sea folks and stuff, and they ain't creating nothing. This would be one of them Libyans right here, ancient Libyan. Look, you see that afro? This the Mishwish folks. Them the folks that made up the Assyrian Empire too, and how the Assyrians would put them on the throne just before they got destroyed. When Assyria came and invaded Egypt around about 671 BC. 671 BC, the Assyrians took over Egypt and put them folks right there on the throne, and then they would take the power from the people from Lower Egypt. You know, the people from Lower Egypt was that Nubian stock. You see what I'm saying? And then how the Assyrians would pit the people from the Mishwish tribes on. You know what I'm saying? And they controlled Lower Egypt. And then they did that in 671 BC, and it will be called in history the satire history of Egypt. You see what I'm saying? You know, they real cold with history. They don't want to tell you none of that. And how we will be hooked up with them. And even Prophet Isaiah even said we'll be hooked up with the Assyrians and the Egyptians. And that what was happening during that time, because them folks was coming up out them caves and they was taking Assyria over. And the Assyrian even come kidnap some of our folks to help them. You see what I'm saying? But in history, they got that wrote up as the 10 lost tribes. You see what I'm saying? Look at this right here. And this was wrote 3 years before the Assyrian captivity. This is in 725 BC. And this is from the prophet Isaiah. And his history always been on time. And that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. And the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Syria. And the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. And in that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, even with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, and whom the Elohim of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt my people, and Assyria the work of my hands, and Israel mine inheritance. You see what I'm saying? So who gonna say that the Creator can't say that the Assyrians and the Egyptians were his people? The people that were Egyptian, that was the created people, was gonna be the people that was kin to the Mishwish Ephraim them, the Mishwish folks who had mixed with us up on Exodus from Egypt in the beginning. You see what I'm saying? See, it was some Egyptians that left with us. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been enough of us just leaving Egypt when we Exodus during our father time. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been enough of us. And how some Egyptians left with us, even though they caused us to sin and kept us messed up with that golden calf, that Ptah Amun Ra religion and stuff, and how that cow is just the symbolization of it and stuff, like what the cross is. Look, and a mixed multitude went up also with them, flocks and herds, even very much cattle. See, that's going to be them cattle worshippers. But a mixed multitude of Egyptians went up with us, because it's going to be those Lower Egyptians. These folks right here, the folks from Libya that controlled Lower Egypt. And then when Joseph passed away, and then the king that come on that didn't know him is going to be of the Nubian Ethiopian stock that controlled Upper Egypt. You see what I'm saying? So they ain't gonna know the works of Joseph, or they ain't gonna want to recognize it. And then they start robbing us and held us in captivity and made us make bricks and so forth. You see what I'm saying? And then I show that the Egyptian society is where the first abortion come down. You know, even though them Canaanites did abortion, you know, when the Creator told us don't send your seed to Molech, you know, and that them folks did abortions and stuff. And then how that they tried to knock us off. And then how the Creator, you know, brung us up out of there with the prophet Moses, and how the Egyptians couldn't even come across the promised land when we had the covenant until we started sinning. And then that's when the Egyptians and them other folks start, you know, coming across the promised land, and we start getting our mouth tore out. And then we got our mouth tore out for being on that Egyptian religion. And the Creator even say this, you know what I'm saying? All right, then I'm going to go to 2 Kings. All right, 2 Kings. They're going to be 2 Kings 10:33. Let's see what this say. 2 Kings 10:33. 2 Kings. Let me see. 2 Kings 10. All right. This when we started to fall. After, you know, you can read about Hazael, how he had got, you know, the throne after Ben-Hadad supposed to have been put to death after the Creator then let Ahab and them get him and stuff, and how he threatened to take us out, and then the Creator let us get him, but how the king didn't want to destroy him and gave him a pass, and then how the Creator, put that Syrian king's captain in charge, made him king, and how he would eventually get us. But during all that time, we was on Egyptian religion. Look, in those days, the Elohim began to cut Israel short, and Hazael smote them and all the coasts of Israel, from Jordan eastward all the way to Gilead, the Gileadites and the Reubenites and the Massites, the Massonites, from Or, which is by the river Aaron, even Gilead and Bashan. They was getting their mouth tore out, then. And then look what would come happen to us. You know what I'm saying? All right. We know Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh was the fighters. Those was the fighters, and they was lived in the enemy's inheritance, deep in their territory. You see what I'm saying? And that when we start sinning, it was easily for our enemies to overdo them, and then this would be what caused the northern kingdom power to exist. Its army and its monarch came to an end. The people were still there, as I showed in the book of Second Chronicles chapter 30 with Hezekiah and his great-grandson King Josiah, how all the tribes were still there after the Assyrian captivity. But this is what happened, when our enemies start robbing us, and then they would take us to Assyria to get us to help fight against them Amorite-like stock that was coming up out the Caucasus Mountain in Babylon. All right, the Reubenites, the sons of Reuben, and the Gadites, half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men, able to bear a buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, skillful in war, and with 44,703 score that went out to war. Look, and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Talcatnazzar, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Halah and Harbor and Har to the river Gazan unto this day. You see what I'm saying? So he would take them Hebrews. This dude right here, Talcatnazzar. Let me see what he had. Talcatnazzar. This dude, he would take that dude right there. He would take the tribes of Israel and take them to fight those them folks that was coming up out the Caucasus Mountain and stuff. You see what I'm saying? And the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh couldn't resist or save themselves because the whole northern kingdom was on Egyptian religion. You see what I'm saying? So, that's like Sargon. Sargon would be killed by them Scythians and them folks from the Caucasus Mountain. That's 722 BC. They would come get us and come keep trying to get folks that could fight them folks that was coming up out the Caucasus Mountain. And that's basically what the Assyrians came in our territory to do, besides rob too, because they were some robbers too. You see what I'm saying? But in the end, they started to need some help. You know what I'm saying? Around about 800 BC on down, they was begging for help, and they was coming to get us, and it was a race war. But the Babylonian scribes, who we Hebrews abandoned our heritage to, I got plenty videos about it. The people who we abandoned our heritage to forged a lie in history and wrote history up entirely different. You see what I'm saying? Our enemies, who we abandoned our heritage to, it's like we was the custodians of world history. That's what those prophets were, and we kept up with the tribes and the evil and wickedness that they was doing. The level of wickedness that they was on, if it was high, the Creator gonna come out and he gonna dispatch a prophet, man, to go there and tell them people to straighten up and stop that wickedness. But our wickedness made us lose our spot. And we got chased off the land. And then our enemies who were responsible for Babylon's history. That's like I showed you that the Creator said that the iniquity of the Amorites is not full. Well, okay, Hebrews, how about that the people we abandon our heritage to? Now, this is real deep. Now, if you can understand this, you're going to be a real sharp Israelite that can explain our heritage. All right, Hebrews, we abandon our heritage to some Babylonian scribes doing all this robbing and all this stuff that was going on. Some people were slick, placed in our land while we was on Egyptian religion. You know, we was on Egyptian religion all the way from 931 BC when Jeroboam put the two golden calves, Ptah, Ra, and that Amun religion on the northern kingdom, and how we stayed on it for a long time, as the history in First Kings and Second Kings demonstrate, how the kings, the whole northern kingdom was still on that Jeroboam religion, and how they mixed the Mesopotamian religion with it. All right, how about some Babylonian scribes from Sepharvaim was placed in our land. You see what I'm saying? In 722 BC, while we were slipping on the Egyptian religion, them folks and slick set some scribes up in Samaria, and them scribes are responsible for Babylon's history. And it's like how I show that the Sepharvaims are Amorites, and that the Amorites are the founders of where they come from. Silper. The Amorites are the founders of where they come from, and how that them same Amorites were responsible for Babylon's history and Babylon's God's history, and how the giants, the Nephilims, Gog and Sihon and those Shishna and Sihon and those ancient kings that we was destroying in the book of Joshua, and how that they was the giants and stuff. Well, those same Amorites are kin to them, and they are the offspring of those folks. And them folks got our heritage, because we was tricked out the land on the Egyptian religion around about 588 BC is when it came to an end. But they had been in our land since 722 BC, and then when we ran into Africa, they would have had been doing our heritage for like 134 years. They would have had been in our land, and then they would have, knew what we was doing. That's like them hip hop folks, in the hip hop community, how you got people dressing just like how we dress and trying to look just like how we look and wear the clothes that we wear. Well, okay, how about that happened with them folks, and them folks would dress like we dress and look how we look, and then we didn't chase them out. And then how they even came to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah 5 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity. But let me show them folks being placed in our land in 722 BC. And this is why Israelite history is false and backwards and don't add up, because you be using their history, the Jewish people history. You see what I'm saying? And the Jewish people are not Israelites, but the average person don't know this, or don't know when that split or when that thin line come about, and when it's not Jewish history. And basically it's going to be all the history that exists today that is accepted as Israelite history going to be Jewish history and the Jewish myths, like that 10 lost tribes stuff. You see what I'm saying? All right. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuddar and from Abel and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. Those people would be in our land for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And this is 5 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity. They was placed, in our land. And then they came to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah. He wanted everybody to come to the dinner. And And all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that come out of Israel, and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel that dwell in Judah. You see, strangers, that's going to be them folks, the Sepharvims, the Sephardis. They going to be the people, that was placed in our land. That's going to be the strangers. And then they came, to the Passover dinner and stuff. But also, if you see with this chapter right here, you'll see that King Hezekiah let you know that all the tribes were still there after the Assyrian captivity. Like I showed you that the Assyrians wasn't our mortal enemies like the history wants you to think. You know what I'm saying? And let me read this. Look, and Hezekiah sent a letter. This is in 725 BC. And Hezekiah, no, this is in 715 BC. This is in 715 BC when them folks come to the Passover dinner. And this is 5 years after the Assyrian captivity of 722 BC that King Hezekiah had all the tribes there. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at that time because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem, and the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan. Now, from Beersheba even to Dan. From Beersheba even to Dan. Now, he made a proclamation, and this is in 715 BC. Now, it wouldn't make no sense to send a letter from here, Beersheba, all the way to Dan. You see what I'm saying? Man, he sent the letter, and then he asked them to come to the Passover dinner. Let me see. So they established a decree and made proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. See, our enemy's been pulling a fast one, and they done made all the European folks into Israelite off that 10 lost tribe lie. They done made the folks in Europe, in Americas, in China, and India, all the Jews' trade routes where they went and did trade, they converted folks, and then they gave them our heritage off that 10 lost tribe lie. Them Babylonian scribes did. But you see, he said that they escaped the hands of a king of Assyria. And then as you read down, so the post passed from city throughout the country of Ephraim, Manasseh, even to Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, the verse of Asher and Manasseh and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. And then as you keep on reading, you know what I'm saying? And then you get down to 18. For a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishkar, Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet did they eat the Passover, otherwise it was written. See, so them tribes still there. And then all the ones that's not mentioned during King Hezekiah time gonna be mentioned during his great grandson King Josiah time. And King Josiah was a prophecy king. He was the king that cleaned us up of that Egyptian religion. And then them Egyptians would come kill him, the Mishwish kings, and then put us back on the Egyptian religion, and we were going to Africa to be enslaved, the 99%. And then I got plenty of videos going into this history. Look, all right, King Josiah, so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, even up to Naphtali with their mattocks round about. He cleaned up the whole Israel. He cleaned up the whole Israel from one end to the other. And this is around about 640 something BC. The Assyrians is not on the map no more. They being taken down through there. They was destroyed in 612 BC by them folks that come up out the mountains. You know, I got videos explaining how Baratuda and King Midas and all them got together and then took Assyria over and took them down. They didn't take them over, they took them down and knocked Assyria off the map forever. But, you know, I got some other history showing that how those Assyrians and Egyptians and us will be chased out of Northeast Africa into the Sahara and where they got baby pyramids at. You know, I got videos showing, you know, how they called us the Gramentians, our first false name. But look, as you read, you know, King Josiah history, you'll see that all the tribes are still there. And then how he cleaned up the whole Israel. And when he had breaking down the altars in the grove and beaten the graven images into powder and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. That's King Josiah. This is in 640 BC. The Assyrian Empire is over. But yet, the children of Israel still at home. We're going to be at home except those fighters, Reuben, Gad, Manasseh, and maybe a few other folks that was, you know, in them tribes. They took the fighters and stuff the Syrians did and incorporated them into their army to fight against the people that was coming up out the Caucasus Mountain. These folks right here. And then the people that we was fighting against would eventually come destroy us, because, you know, if we fighting against them inside the Assyrian Empire, then that them enemies would come get us and the Egyptians, because the Assyrians had the Egyptians and us fighting with them against them folks that they was trying to get up out their nation. You know, them non-pigmented peoples had took Assyria over. They had let too many of them kick it in there, and then they took it over. And then that was Syria's lights. You know, their lights got put out. And then the prophet who tell you about Assyria lights getting put out is going to be the prophet Nahum. He going to tell you about Nineveh and how they got destroyed. But before then, probably like a good 60 years before then, when the prophet Jonah went to Assyria, he told them to stop kicking it with them folks, and they didn't. And then, you know, that would happen. But then, you know, because we seen the Assyrians get destroyed, we wouldn't straighten up. So Prophet Habakkuk tell us about Ashkenazi, the Scythians, coming to get us. You see what I'm saying? Coming to get us. That's 72 years later, after the Syrians, you know, was going to be destroyed, from what Prophet Nahum said. Alright, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Our history is not what our enemies been telling us, and how they been telling a lie, and how the Assyrian Empire and its kings and stuff, you know, you can kind of match it with the Israelite history, and how them folks been telling a lie about the Assyrian captivity and about Israelite history, period. But what can you expect if our history fell into the hands of some Babylonian scribes, some Amorites? And like I show in the other videos, that our enemies get their power from us not knowing who we are and us being wicked. You know, that's where their power come from. You know what I'm saying? Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.